During World War II, the Soviet partisan movement emerged as one of the most significant and effective resistance forces behind enemy lines. Operating in Nazi-occupied Soviet territories, these irregular fighters disrupted German supply lines, sabotaged infrastructure, gathered intelligence, and tied down hundreds of thousands of Axis troops. The Soviet partisans were not only a symbol of fierce national resistance but also a critical element in the overall Soviet war effort that helped turn the tide against the Nazis. Origins of the partisan movement. The partisan resistance began almost immediately after Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa on June 22, 1941. As German forces advanced deep into Soviet territory, many Red Army soldiers and civilians were left behind enemy lines. Some took to the forests and swamps, organizing into small guerrilla groups. Initially spontaneous and loosely coordinated, the movement gained strength as the Soviet state began to actively organize, supply, and direct partisan operations through the central headquarters of the partisan movement established in 1942. The Soviet government emphasized the partisans as both a military necessity and a patriotic duty. Tactics and operations. Soviet partisans employed classic guerrilla warfare tactics including sabotage, blowing up railways, bridges and power lines to disrupt German logistics. Ambushes, targeting convoys, troop transports and communication lines. Assassinations, eliminating German officers, collaborators and informants. Information gathering, relaying enemy troop movements and dispositions to Soviet command. Their operations had a significant cumulative impact. By 1943, partisans in occupied Belarus alone destroyed over 3,000 German trains and killed thousands of enemy troops. One of the most famous operations was Rail War, 1943, and its follow-up coordinated sabotage campaigns that crippled the German army's ability to transport reinforcements and supplies during the Soviet offensives at Kursk and Smolensk. Support and coordination. Unlike many other resistance movements in occupied Europe, Soviet partisans received direct support from the Red Army. Soviet aircraft dropped supplies, weapons and radio equipment to partisan detachments. Trained NKVD officers were often embedded with larger groups to ensure political loyalty and to coordinate attacks with regular military operations. As the Red Army advanced westward in 1943-44, partisans played an increasingly important role in clearing rear areas, seizing towns before regular troops arrived, and helping to restore Soviet authority in liberated territories. Composition of the movement. Soviet partisans were drawn from all walks of life: peasants, workers, Red Army stragglers, former POWs and Communist Party members. Women played crucial roles as medics, couriers and fighters. Notable among them was Zoya Kosmodymianskaya, a young partisan executed by the Nazis, who became a national martyr and symbol of Soviet resistance. Jewish fighters also took part, often forming their own units or joining mixed detachments after fleeing ghettos or escaping massacres. Despite the broader context of anti-Semitism in the USSR, within partisan ranks, Jews were active contributors to the anti-Nazi fight. Challenges and controversy. The partisan movement was not without its difficulties. Harsh reprisals. German counterinsurgency operations such as the notorious Operation Cottbus involved mass killings of civilians suspected of supporting partisans. Relations with civilians. Partisans sometimes forcibly requisitioned food and supplies, creating tension with local populations. Political control. As the movement grew, the Soviet state increasingly imposed ideological discipline and purged non-communist or independent groups. Despite these issues, the movement maintained strong support in many regions, especially where German occupation policies were particularly brutal. Impact on the war effort. By 1944, an estimated 250,000 Soviet partisans were active across Nazi-occupied territories. Their relentless operations disrupted German lines of communication and transport, weakening frontline units, tied down significant German manpower in rear-area security operations, provided crucial intelligence for Soviet military planning, boosted morale and national unity during the darkest periods of the war. Their contribution became especially evident during major Soviet offensives like Operation Bagration, where partisan sabotage and uprisings helped accelerate the collapse of German forces in the east. Legacy. After the war, the Soviet Union celebrated its partisans as heroes. Many were awarded medals, and their stories were immortalized in literature, film, and public memory. Monuments to partisan fighters still stand across Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia. However, post-Soviet scholarship has also examined the darker sides of the movement, including civilian suffering and political repression. Even so, few doubt that the Soviet partisans played a vital role in undermining Nazi power in the East and contributed directly to the final Soviet victory. The Soviet partisans were not merely a footnote in the vast canvas of World War II, they were a vital force that helped shape the outcome of the Eastern Front. Fighting in forests, swamps, and villages behind enemy lines, they proved that resistance could be both a weapon and a symbol of national defiance. Their courage, sacrifice, and contribution remain a powerful chapter in the story of how Nazi Germany was defeated.